Elder Gu did not step into the treatment room. He remained in the doorway, occupying it completely without seeming to try. The junior steward stood behind him with his head lowered, hands pressed together inside his sleeves. Outside the side hall, the afternoon had grown brighter. Sunlight reflected off the stone corridor and made Elder Gu's shadow fall across the room like a bar. Lin Fan sat on the low bed and waited. Waiting was not submission. It was the act of letting another person decide which mistake to make first. Elder Gu's gaze moved over him again. Your robe was intact during the test, the elder said. Yes. Now it is torn. Yes. The junior steward says you remained here. The steward's shoulders tightened. Lin Fan looked at him for a moment, then back to Elder Gu. Steward instructed me to wait. Elder Gu's mouth curved faintly. That was not an answer. Better than expected. Lin Fan lowered his eyes. Disciple stood to breathe by the window. The frame caught the cloth. The frame tore fabric at the shoulder? Disciple's balance was poor. Because of root pain? Yes. Each answer was small, plausible, insufficient. Elder Gu heard the insufficiency. He did not strike it down. That meant he wanted to see how Lin Fan handled pressure more than he wanted the immediate truth. The elder's gaze moved to the junior steward. Leave. The steward looked relieved and terrified at once. Yes, elder. He withdrew quickly. Elder Gu waited until the footsteps faded before speaking again. Zhang Hu is in the old washing court. Lin Fan said nothing. His robe is covered in dust. His right arm is numb. His followers are pretending they did not follow him there. Lu Chen claims there was a misunderstanding. Still, Lin Fan said nothing. Elder Gu stepped into the room at last. The pressure changed immediately. Not killing intent. Not even direct suppression. A senior cultivator's presence simply made the weak body remember its place. Lin Fan's meridians tightened in response. The poison ring trembled. He controlled the reaction. Elder Gu noticed. You are calm for someone in trouble. Panic worsens root pain. So does lying. Lin Fan looked up. Elder Gu's eyes were sharp, practical, and faintly amused. He was not angry. That was important. Anger would have meant the elder's authority had been offended. Amusement meant the elder saw a possible asset behaving inconveniently. Assets could be disciplined. They could also be invested in. Lin Fan chose the line between. Disciple did not start a fight. Elder Gu watched him. Did you finish one? Zhang Hu agreed to one exchange. The elder's brows lifted by a fraction. Information confirmed, but phrasing unexpected. And you won? He fell. That is also not an answer. It is the part witnesses agree on. For a breath, the room held still. Then Elder Gu laughed once. It was short and cold. You speak like someone who has already been questioned many times. Lin Fan lowered his gaze. Outer disciples learn to answer carefully. Some do. Elder Gu stepped closer. Most learn to lie badly. The elder reached out. Lin Fan did not move. 2 fingers pressed against the torn cloth near his left shoulder. She entered lightly, not enough to heal, only to inspect. The body wanted to flinch. Lin Fan let the shoulder react just enough to be believable. Elder Gu examined the bruise beneath the cloth. Impact. Yes. Not from a window frame. The window frame tore the robe. Elder Gu looked at him. There was the truth, rearranged. The elder could punish him for it if he wished. He did not. His fingers moved to the old bruise on Lin Fan's forearm, the 3-finger mark Shang Hu had admitted to leaving. Then to the wrist. Then, more dangerously, toward the abdomen. Lin Fan let his breathing change before the elder touched the root junction. Pain showed. Only a little. Enough to make the elder's attention shift from suspicion to condition. Elder Gu's hand paused. Root pain increased after the incident. Yes. Did Zhang Hu strike your root? No clean hit. No clean hit, Elder Gu repeated. The phrase carried interest. Lin Fan had let too much precision show. He adjusted by lowering his head. Disciple remembers pain. Not clearly. Elder Gu withdrew his hand. You remember enough to choose words. Lin Fan did not answer. The elder turned toward the cabinet. For one moment, danger sharpened. The cabinet held fewer cooling leaves than before. Not enough missing for casual inspection, but Elder Gu was not casual. He opened the cabinet. His eyes passed over the leaves, powders, paste, paper strips. Lin Fan remained still. Elder Gu lifted the cracked jar of meridian warming paste. The surface had been disturbed where Lin Fan had taken a small amount. You treated your arm. Yes. Without permission. Pain made the hand tremble. A trembling hand may be mistaken for panic. Elder Gu turned back to him. And you wished not to appear panicked? Yes. Why? Lin Fan allowed a trace of bitterness into his voice. Because everyone was watching. That answer belonged to a 16-year-old disciple. It was not false either. Elder Gu studied him, then set the jar down. You are either very lucky, very controlled, or very troublesome. Lin Fan lowered his eyes. Disciple hopes to be useful. The elder smiled again. That is the first thing you have said today that sounds like it came from this sect. He closed the cabinet. Outside, a steward approached the doorway and stopped. Elder Gu. Speak. Discipline steward has received Zhang Hu's report. Several witnesses say Zhang Hu initiated an informal challenge without confirming steward presence. Others say Lin Fan accepted one exchange and Zhang Hu fell. Lu Chen confirms he stated the terms. Elder Gu glanced at Lin Fan. Lin Fan kept his expression tired. The steward continued, Zhang Hu also admitted he injured Lin Fan yesterday. There are witnesses. There. The second fall. The old washing court had done its work. Elder Gu said, penalty recommendation? Suspension of West Training Yard access remains. 1 month second-tier ration delay. 3 days labor at the outer discipline hall. The complaint against the junior steward remains under separate review. The junior steward, wherever he stood, would be sweating. Elder Gu looked at Lin Fan. Do you object? The question was a test. If Lin Fan demanded harsher punishment, he looked vindictive. If he begged mercy, he looked weak or false. If he accepted too quickly, he revealed satisfaction. Disciple obeys the elder's judgment. Elder Gu's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. Convenient answer. It is the only answer that belongs to disciple. Not always. That sentence carried warning and offer both. Lin Fan heard both. Elder Gu stepped back from the bed. You will remain under observation until evening. You will receive heat-clearing medicine and a small portion of clean spirit rice. If your root condition worsens, report it. If you disappear again, I will assume you prefer discipline to treatment. Again. So the elder knew. Not fully. Enough. Lin Fan bowed from the bed. Yes, elder. Elder Gu turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. Lin Fan. Disciple is here. A weak disciple who wins by luck should hide after victory. A clever disciple who wins by method should hide the method. You did one of those. Lin Fan raised his eyes. Elder Gu looked back at him. Decide carefully which one people believe. Then he left. The room grew lighter after his shadow withdrew. Lin Fan remained still until the footsteps faded. Elder Gu had not protected him. He had priced him. Clean rice. Medicine. Observation. Warning. A small investment. A small leash. Lin Fan touched the inside of his sleeve where the cooling leaves rested. The sect had given him more than yesterday. It also wanted more than yesterday. That was acceptable. Everything that wanted something could be led by the wanting. Outside, the old washing court's result spread through the outer mountain. This time, the rumor had an official edge. Zhang Hu was punished. Lin Fan was not. That difference would do more work than any boast. Lin Fan closed his eyes and let the first layer of fear settle around his name. Not complete. Not stable. Enough to begin. The medicine arrived a quarter hour later. A steward brought it on a wooden tray with the stiff posture of someone handling a task above his usual grade. 3 heat-clearing pills, a thumb-sized packet of clean spirit rice, and a slip bearing Elder Gu's mark. The slip mattered more than the medicine. It instructed the outer storehouse to record the supplies as treatment expense rather than ration advancement. That meant no one could claim Lin Fan had begged for extra food. It also meant the sect now had a treatment record attached to his name. A record was a handle. Lin Fan accepted the tray with both hands and thanked the steward in the proper form. The steward looked relieved that nothing strange happened during the exchange. That relief would become part of the story too. Lin Fan had not acted arrogant after victory. He had sat quietly, received medicine, and remained under observation. Quiet after violence unsettled people more than boasting. Boasting let them file the event under pride. Quiet left the file open. When the steward left, Lin Fan did not immediately take the pills. He examined them first. Low grade, but not spoiled. Heat clearing, mild cold nature, probably made from blue leaf grass and bitter stone powder. Too crude for true root stabilization, but useful to slow fever if taken in divided doses. The clean rice carried more value for blood recovery. The sect's investment was small. He would make it produce more than intended. Outside the treatment room, another rumor passed. Elder Gu gave him medicine. So he really is worth something? Or they want to see if he mutates. Do roots mutate? How should I know? Footsteps hurried away. Lin Fan opened his eyes again. Worth something. That phrase would do more damage to yesterday's hierarchy than Zhang Hu's apology. In a sect, value was protection, bait, and target all at once. The outer mountain had seen him receive official cost. Now every disciple would wonder whether touching him meant touching Elder Gu's account. The fear around his name thickened by a single layer. Enough for tonight. Elder Gu did not leave the matter entirely to rumor. Before evening, a notice was posted beside the outer ration board. It did not mention Lin Fan's victory. It did not mention the washing court in detail. It stated only that Zhang Hu's West Training Yard access remained suspended pending discipline review, that unauthorized challenges near service areas would be punished, and that disciples under medical observation were not to be disturbed. The notice was dry. The outer mountain read it as blood. Disciples gathered before the board in small groups, reading the same lines again and again, adding the missing names with their eyes. Zhang Hu. Lin Fan. Elder Gu. Medical observation. Unauthorized challenge. Punished. Official language did what gossip could not. It made the day's new order visible without explaining it. Zhang Hu did not come to read the notice while others stood there. That absence was also read. His followers came, separately. One left quickly. The other remained too long and was questioned by 3 disciples who had never dared question him that morning. By sunset, the first change in power had measurable shape. No one kicked Lin Fan's door. No one took his ration bowl. No one used Zhang Hu's name as confidently as before. Small things. The outer mountain was made of small things repeated until they became law. Lin Fan had interrupted the repetition. That was why the fear would last longer than the bruise. Inside the treatment room, he listened to the notice being discussed and understood Elder Gu's move. The elder was not protecting him out of concern. He was protecting the Sect's claim on an uncertain asset. That difference was important. Protection could be withdrawn. Claim could be redirected. Lin Fan would use the claim while making withdrawal expensive. That required appearing neither grateful nor rebellious. Gratitude invited ownership. Rebellion invited suppression. Quiet usefulness invited further investment, and investment created hesitation before disposal. Lin Fan intended to become expensive before anyone understood what they had purchased. The Outer Mountain did not understand that yet. It only knew Elder Gu's notice had placed a thin official shadow over Lin Fan's door. Thin shadows still changed where people stepped. By the time the sun touched the outer roofs, disciples were already practicing new routes. Some avoided Zhang Hu. Some avoided Lin Fan. The clever ones avoided choosing too visibly. Those were the ones Lin Fan would remember. Fear showed most clearly in route changes. Words could be denied. Footsteps left patterns. By evening, East Lower Quarter had already begun drawing a new map around his door. Maps made by fear were crude. They were still maps. And crude maps were enough when everyone else was still pretending the road had not moved. Lin Fan would move first. Always. Elder Gu did not leave the matter entirely to rumor. Before evening, a notice was posted beside the outer ration board. It did not mention Lin Fan's victory. It did not mention the washing court in detail. It stated only that Zhang Hu's West Training Yard access remains suspended pending discipline review, that unauthorized challenges near service areas would be punished, and that disciples under medical observation were not to be disturbed. The notice was dry. The Outer Mountain read it as blood. Disciples gathered before the board in small groups, reading the same lines again and again, adding the missing names with their eyes. Zhang Hu. Lin Fan. Elder Gu. Medical observation. Unauthorized challenge. Punished. Official language did what gossip could not. It made the day's new order visible without explaining it. Zhang Hu did not come to read the notice while others stood there. That absence was also read. His followers came, separately. One left quickly. The other remained too long and was questioned by 3 disciples who had never dared question him that morning. By sunset, the first change in power had measurable shape. No one kicked Lin Fan's door. No one took his ration bowl. No one used Zhang Hu's name as confidently as before. Small things. The Outer Mountain was made of small things repeated until they became law. Lin Fan had interrupted the repetition. That was why the fear would last longer than the bruise. Inside the treatment room, he listened to the notice being discussed and understood Elder Gu's move. The elder was not protecting him out of concern. He was protecting the Sect's claim on an uncertain asset. That difference was important. Protection could be withdrawn. Claim could be redirected. Lin Fan would use the claim while making withdrawal expensive.